We want to talk to you about Sharon Osbourne because I saw your post yesterday. You really loved her. You worked with her 5 seasons
I did.
on America's Got Talent, and you know her very well. And she was with us on set when we were reporting on the Queen's funeral. Tell me what you thought about that reaction yesterday. There were so many people lining the streets of Birmingham.
You know, it's very heartbreaking in one way. I watched Sharon yesterday. I teared up watching it because I've known Sharon a long time. She's a very, very close friend of mine. And to see her so broken in the way that she was. They were married nearly 50 years.
Wow.
And they never pretended they had the perfect marriage. They had probably more challenges than most marriages would ever go through. But what they had underpinning it was a ferocious love. It was an undimmed, ferocious love. And when I saw Sharon without her Ozzy, you know, it did make me choke up, actually. My heart breaks for Sharon. She's a wonderful lady. And I think that Ozzy, I think the manner of his departure, the scale of the mourners that came out, and almost part mourning and part celebrating this amazing guy's life. I think people have been taken aback by the scale of it.
Wow,
and there's going to be a private funeral today, I think, with just a few family and friends. But yesterday for Ozzy was him saying goodbye to the people of Birmingham. And I've not seen crowds like that for somebody's funeral in the UK, probably outside of a royal ceremony. So it was amazing. I was saying, Mr. Gene Simmons earlier, that they didn't pretend to be perfect human beings. They embraced their flaws. They were very open and candid about stuff that went wrong. You know, Sharon never claimed to have the perfect marriage. She knew who she was married to. She knew he was a bit of a wild boy, Ozzy. But Ozzy said to me many times, you know, he could never have done any of this without Sharon.
When Ozzy Osbourne passed away, Sharon's world felt like it shattered into pieces. The man she had loved from the moment she first saw him, the one who had stood beside her through the hardest parts of life addiction, betrayal.
Ozzy couldn't live without Sharon, and Sharon couldn't live without Ozzy. And that's what's so sad, I think, about today, is that Sharon now doesn't have him. You know, and my heart genuinely breaks for her for that.
And the kids, the father is gone.
Yeah.
You know, the patriarch. I mean, it's just. I saw a video of Jack Osbourne's little kid pointing at the TV when Ozzy was on one of the videos and just, you know, being enthralled and all that.
Well, I was attracted to Sharon for many years. We'd see each other in airports and at festivals and different things along the way. She had this infectious laugh. She was fun, you know. And then when I was with Black Sabbath, we were contemplating being managed by her father, who was a big manager at the time. And then I got fired from Black Sabbath, and I thought, I'm done. I'll go back to England. And Sharon knocked my hotel door one morning and said, I want to manage you. And I couldn't believe it. And then I thought, does she want me? Then we went to San Francisco.
We were with another friend of ours, a guitar player called Gary Moore, and him and his girlfriend and Ozzy and I went on a trip for a weekend to San Francisco.
I thought that was it then
And when he said he was trying to find my room, we were in a hotel, but I had booked in under another name, and Ozzy couldn't find me my room.
All night I was going to say, can I come and watch your telly? That was my pickup line back then.
Very sophisticated, Ozzy.
I mean, we were meant to be, you know, I think. Not looking back, we were meant to be together.
Yeah, our lives kept crossing from...
It was ridiculous to go, oh shit, there's Sharon.
Kept bumping into each other every year. One of the qualities for Ozzy is his sense of humor. Always had me laughing, no matter what, and still does. We can be in the worst situation and deal with it, but at the end we still manage to laugh about whatever it is. Ozzy will turn it into humor, and that's a great gift that he has. He's a pain in the ass, but he's never been a diva or pretended to be somebody he's not, or because he was famous then he acted a certain way. He's always been very true to who he really is, and I really admire that about him. And he's also very generous.
Sharon is like my soulmate. sometimes I love her, sometimes I don't love her, sometimes I'm angry with her, sometimes I'm crazy about her, sometimes I'm very jealous of her, sometimes I want to fucking kill her. But through it all, at the end of the day, I love her more than anything in the world. I put it this way, I couldn't live without her. I don't want to live without her. And my love for her now is bigger than it ever has been. We've had a rocky road. What I never could understand, and they used to say, and they both lived happily ever after. That's a bunch of bullshit. Because when you get married, that's the most heaviest contract you will ever sign in your life. And people today just get married. Oh, well, let's get married, and then 3 weeks later they get divorced. You know, a marriage is a deal with someone, and you know, you fall off the wagon, but you get back on again. You know.
But when I was sick with cancer, you used to carry me to the bathroom and back.
But that's what
that's what it's
you
about.
Do. Oh, you don't think twice. Love is such an overused word.
But we do love our dogs.
The love I have for you and my kids is a love that you can't buy.
You can't buy.
And a dog's the only love you can buy.
Illness and endless media storms was suddenly gone. Sharon didn't just lose a husband, she lost half of herself. It felt as though her soul had been torn apart. At the funeral, people expected her to cry out, collapse, or break down in public. Instead, Sharon stood silently, trembling as though an earthquake was shaking her from the inside. Her pain was quiet, but it was so deep it seemed to swallow her entire heart. No one in the world knew Ozzy better than Sharon, and no one had loved him enough to forgive every mistake the way she did. For nearly 50 years, she didn't just fight to save a marriage, she fought to protect a restless, wild spirit. He was a man she admired deeply as an artist, yet he was also someone who hurt her many times. Still, she stayed.
I love her more.
I love my husband so much more than when we first met. It's
I was a bad boy for many years.
The love has just got better, deeper, and we're blessed to have found each other.
I mean, it must really suck when people have like affairs for like 10 years and then they get found out. That must really hurt.
I can only imagine. It's heartbreaking. It breaks people, you know, and then you have to fix yourself again.
And now, with him gone, Sharon was left behind in an endless emptiness. Their love story was not the kind that began with sweet words or fairy tale promises. It began with chaos, rebellion, and an uncheckable instinct that they belonged together. Sharon first met Ozzy when she was young. Her father, Don Arden, managed Black Sabbath.
You texted with him, you said?
Yeah, I texted with both of them because it was, I say it's heartbreaking, but also if you could have scripted a way for Ozzy to go, actually I think what he would have done is said, I would like to have a farewell concert in Birmingham, the city where he grew up as a young lad, where Black Sabbath were formed. I'd like all my mates, Metallica, Guns N' Roses, all these guys. I'd like all my family, they were all backstage. I'd like thousands of Brummies, what we call people from Birmingham, all with their Brummie accents. I'd like them all in the crowd going nuts. I want to perform a few hits and say goodbye and then bid us farewell. And I texted him the night before and I read it yesterday just to remind myself, and he just said, oh, I'm really excited, we're in Birmingham, the final show, and then that's that. And when I read that text again, I was like, wow. It was almost like he was putting a seal on the end of his life, you know? And look, if you said to Ozzy, in his 30s and 40s, you're going to live to 76, he'd have gone, I'll take that. You know, he had a wild, crazy life. He was one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. And he was in this, you know, he was in a wheelchair where they put him in a big black throne and they rose him up. And for that night, Ozzy was king again, back in Birmingham with his mates, with all his family backstage. And I just think if he could have scripted, actually, the last we ever saw of him, it wouldn't get better than that.
My son and I were at Ozzy's final show, just less than 3 weeks ago. It'll go down as one of our best metal memories. That the love and outpouring of appreciation, support there, it was literally chilling. I teared up more than once. What Ozzy gave us as metalheads can never be repaid. So many of us live and breathe heavy metal, and without metal in our lives, it wouldn't be as good. And we have Ozzy Osbourne to thank for that.
How was he in the show?
He was amazing. His voice cracked a couple of times, especially during the Mama I'm Coming Home. He did a solo set, then a set with Black Sabbath. And again, with his voice as raw as it was, and to realize the strength that took him to get on that stage, as bad as he had to feel, it made it, I think he reached the peak of his career that day.
The band that had made Ozzy famous. Back then, Ozzy was unpredictable, troubled, and reckless. But there was something about him Sharon couldn't turn away from. It wasn't only his stage presence or fame, it was the raw, broken, yet painfully honest man behind the madness. In 1979, Ozzy was kicked out of Black Sabbath because of his drug use and spiraling lifestyle. Many believed his career was finished, but Sharon didn't. She stepped in, becoming not only his manager, but eventually his life partner. She believed in him when almost no one else did. They married in 1982, and from that day forward, their lives became a long battle not only against the world, but also against the demons inside Ozzy himself. He fell into addiction again and again. Alcohol and drugs often consumed him, and his temper sometimes turned violent. There were moments when Sharon nearly walked away for good. But she always came back not out of weakness, but out of love. She once said she had lost Ozzy many times because every overdose, every accident, and every health crisis felt like she might lose him forever. When he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2020, Sharon once again stood beside him. She didn't cry in front of cameras. She didn't break apart, she simply held his hand and walked forward with him. That kind of strength was what kept them together for half a century. Sharon wasn't just his wife. She was the person who watched him fall, helped him rise, and eventually was the one left to say goodbye. All of that happened within one shared lifetime. One of Ozzy's final public appearances was unforgettable. It took place at Aston Villa Stadium in Birmingham, the city where he was born. Because of his failing health, he couldn't walk on his own. He was brought onto the stage in a huge black chair, which many fans described as looking like a dark throne.
And at that concert just over 2 weeks ago, all the kids were there. Amy, Jack, Kelly, with their kids, with their partners, the grandchildren were there, Ozzy's children from his first marriage, all the staff that have worked for them for decades, which always says something about somebody, doesn't it, when you keep the same staff. And it was a real family affair. And so I kind of take some comfort from the fact that he was able to do that and be there with all of them and for them to see him perform.
The sight of him slowly being lifted up in front of thousands of fans was both powerful and heartbreaking, though his body was weak. The moment carried a sense of majesty, almost as if he was being crowned one last time. That performance felt less like a concert and more like a farewell ceremony. Bands such as Metallica and Guns N' Roses, groups that had been influenced by Ozzy, were there. Their presence was more than professional respect. It was a living tribute to the man who had paved the way for them. When the spotlight hit him and the crowd erupted into cheers, the air was heavy with emotion. Fans cried, sang along, and held up their hands, creating a wave of energy that spread across the world through news outlets and social media. That night wasn't just another show, it was the closing anthem of a legendary career. Not long after, surrounded by family and friends, Ozzy experienced one last beautiful moment. His daughter's boyfriend proposed to her in front of him. Despite his illness, Ozzy's face lit up with joy and pride. Although he couldn't attend her wedding later, he wrote a heartfelt letter expressing how much he wished he could be there. In it, he told her he hoped for nothing but a life full of happiness, love, and peace.
honestly, when I did America's Got Talent, we would fly around America doing the audition shows, and Ozzy would just appear randomly in Miami or Seattle or whatever, and we'd go out for dinner. And I remember one hilarious one was when it was me, Sharon and Ozzy having dinner, and Kelly turned up with some random boyfriend she had at the time. And they got very bored very quickly with these three oldies talking. So they left, and then they went round, and there were windows like this, like French windows, doors, so with glass fronts. And the pair of them dropped their trousers and moonied through to the three of us at the dinner table.
Crazy.
And Sharon and Ozzy were like enraged. And they're like, this is disgusting behaviour. And I went, from you two? Really?
Yeah.
You don't think that's a product of their environment? And then Ozzy burst out laughing. He laughed like a drain for about 10 minutes because he realised the absurdity of trying to pretend that his child wasn't going to behave a bit like him. But they were a special couple.
Those words showed who he truly was beneath the wild rock star image. A father who cared deeply about his family. Family had always been at the center of Ozzy's heart. No matter how much chaos surrounded his career or how much pain addiction caused, he always valued his children. Witnessing his daughter's proposal in his final days was one of the brightest moments of his later life. When Ozzy died, the world lost more than a rock star, it lost an era. His absence marked the end of a chapter in music history. But his legacy continues to live on, carried forward by his family, especially Sharon, Jack, and Kelly Osbourne, and by the generations of musicians he inspired. Looking back at his life, Ozzy Osbourne's journey was nothing short of remarkable. Born on December 3, 1948, in Aston, Birmingham, he grew up in a poor family. His childhood home was filled with arguments, struggles, and little comfort. As the third of 6 children, he often felt neglected. Yet, in that difficult environment, music became his escape. It was where he found hope and a sense of purpose. In the late 1960s, everything changed when he joined Black Sabbath. With its heavy, dark sound, the band reshaped rock music. Ozzy's haunting voice became the soul of the group. Albums like Black Sabbath, Paranoid, and Master of Reality didn't just sell millions of copies, they redefined what rock could be. Songs such as Iron Man, War Pigs, and Paranoid became eternal classics, embedding Ozzy's name forever in music history. But fame didn't erase his struggles. Addiction followed him through every stage of his career. Drugs and alcohol nearly destroyed him many times. Even so, his resilience pulled him back. After leaving Black Sabbath, he launched a solo career that was just as successful, sometimes even more. Albums like Blizzard of Oz, Diary of a Madman, and Bark at the Moon proved he wasn't finished. Songs like Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley showed the world that his creative fire was still burning. A major part of his strength came from Sharon. She was not only his partner in love, but also the one who helped him rebuild his life and career. As his manager, she made sure he stayed on track. As his wife, she gave him stability. Together they faced addictions, health crises, and endless scandals. Despite it all, they stood firm, proving that their bond was unbreakable. Beyond music, Ozzy became a cultural icon. In the early 2000s, the world got to see another side of him through the reality show The Osbournes. Fans saw him not just as the Prince of Darkness, but also as a father and husband. The show revealed his humor, vulnerability, and love for his family, making him relatable in a way few rock legends ever were. From a poor boy in Birmingham to a global legend, Ozzy Osbourne's journey was extraordinary. His voice, his stage presence, and his larger-than-life personality made him unforgettable. His story was not perfect, far from it, but it was real, raw, and deeply human. In the end, Ozzy was more than just a rock star. He was a husband who loved fiercely, a father who cared deeply, and a man who never stopped fighting. His legacy isn't only in the albums or the concerts, it lives in the people he inspired, the family who carries his memory, and the fans who will forever hear his voice when they play his songs. Though he is gone, the echo of Ozzy Osbourne remains loud, haunting, and eternal. This is the story of a man who lived with passion, fought through battles that many would have given up on, and left a mark on the world that will never fade. His songs continue to move people across generations, and his journey serves as an inspiration to anyone who dares to follow their dreams, no matter how difficult the road may be. On July 22, 2025, the world lost more than just a musician. When Ozzy Osbourne passed away, rock music lost one of its most defining figures. His death was not just the end of a remarkable career, it was the closing of a chapter in music history. A chapter written with his unforgettable voice, his bold performances, and his refusal to be defeated by life's hardships. Even though he no longer walks onto a stage or holds a microphone in his hands, his spirit is far from gone. The legacy he built through his music, his sacrifices, his struggles, and his deep love for his family will remain alive for generations. His fans will never forget him because Ozzy was more than an entertainer. He was a fighter, a survivor, and a man who dared to transform his pain into power. In his last years, Ozzy faced illness with the same strength he had shown throughout his life. His body may have weakened, but his light never dimmed. He continued to inspire his fans, reminding them that true greatness is not about avoiding struggles, but about standing tall in the middle of them. By his side was Sharon Osbourne, his wife, manager, and lifelong partner. She wasn't only the woman who shared his home, she was the foundation that held him steady. Sharon openly said that even though their family had been through countless ups and downs, what never changed was the love that kept them together. We never judged others by race, and we never stayed silent just to protect reputations, Sharon once said. Her words reflected her strength and honesty. She was loyal to her family, and she stood firm on the values they lived by for decades. When Ozzy was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, Sharon once again stepped into the role of caregiver and supporter. She guided the Osbourne family through the challenges of mental health and illness with courage. Our family has changed, but we've been together every day for the past 5 years, she said, highlighting the bond that carried them through some of the darkest times. Ozzy's children also carried their father's spirit in their own lives. Jack Osbourne, his son, once known to the world as the young boy on their reality TV show, grew into a strong and determined man. After being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, Jack showed resilience, proving that the Osbourne bloodline was made of unbreakable will. We lost the father we once knew and were left with a frail man, Jack said during one of his final interviews about Ozzy. But the love he gave us and the memories we hold will always remain. Kelly Osbourne, Ozzy's daughter, faced her own struggles in life but carried with her the wisdom she learned from both parents. She often said her father was a better grandfather than he had been a father during her childhood. It wasn't criticism, it was recognition of his growth, a journey of redemption that made her love and respect him even more. Kelly saw the flaws in her father, but also the incredible lessons he taught about family and unconditional love. Ozzy Osbourne's story was not just about fame and music, it was about transformation. From his early days filled with controversy, addiction, and reckless behavior, he turned his life around to become one of the most respected names in music. His road was never easy. He was fired from Black Sabbath, the band that helped launch his career. He faced battles with substance abuse that nearly destroyed him. Yet through every downfall, he managed to rise again, often stronger than before. Addiction was one of the hardest battles of his life. The path to sobriety was long and painful, but with Sharon by his side, Ozzy fought step by step. He faced his demons, stumbled, but always got back up. Eventually, he found recovery, and from there, a clearer purpose in life. Even when Parkinson's disease tested his body and spirit, he continued creating, performing, and showing the world that nothing could silence his passion for music. His struggles taught him patience, endurance, and the value of having loved. Once close, he learned that true strength comes not just from talent or fame, but from the ability to overcome failure, to fight temptation, and to never surrender to despair. At the center of Ozzy's story is his family. No matter how chaotic his career became, his family kept him grounded. Sharon's role in his life cannot be overstated. She was not only his wife, but also his manager, his business partner, and, in many ways, his savior. Her guidance helped him escape the downward spiral of drugs and alcohol. Her patience gave him the chance to rebuild his life and career. Together, Ozzy and Sharon faced crisis after crisis. They raised their children, rebuilt broken pieces of their lives, and turned their struggles into strength. Ozzy often credited his family for saving him, reminding fans that fame and money meant nothing compared to the love of those closest to him. Perhaps the most important message Ozzy left behind was about forgiveness. He understood that life is filled with mistakes, some small, some huge. From his painful youth marked by poverty to the destructive choices he made during his career, Ozzy carried many regrets. But instead of letting them consume him, he chose to forgive himself and others. In his final days, he made it clear that he did not want his family to suffer from grief or hold onto bitterness. He forgave those who had hurt him and asked his loved ones to let him go peacefully. His message was simple yet powerful. True peace comes from forgiveness. Forgiveness, he believed, does not mean forgetting. It means releasing the weight of resentment and allowing yourself to move forward. This lesson wasn't just for his family, it was for his fans, for anyone struggling with anger or regret. His life became a reminder that no matter what mistakes we make, redemption is always possible if we choose forgiveness. Ozzy Osbourne's legacy goes far beyond music. Yes, his songs will live forever, but so will the lessons he taught through his journey. He showed the world the meaning of perseverance, the strength of family, and the healing power of forgiveness. He transformed from a man once known for chaos into a legend celebrated for resilience. His life proved that even when the odds are against you, you can rise again. As we look back, we see not just a rock star, but a husband, a father, and a grandfather who grew, learned, and gave everything he had to those he loved. His final wish was that his family would not live in sorrow, but in peace, holding on to love rather than grief. Ozzy Osbourne's story is more than just history, it is a guide for anyone facing hardships. He reminds us that no obstacle is too great if we hold on to hope, if we lean on family, and if we allow forgiveness to free our hearts. Though he is no longer here, his voice continues to echo, his courage continues to inspire, his love for his family and his strength in the face of adversity continue to guide those who admire him. Today, we honor Ozzy Osbourne, not only as a musical icon, but as a man who showed the world how to fight, how to love, and how to forgive. His story lives on, written not only in records and performances, but in the countless lives he touched. Thank you for joining in remembering Ozzy Osbourne, a true legend whose influence will never fade. His journey reminds us all to keep pushing forward, to embrace our families, and to never give up on our dreams. **